security, and they're gonna pop up, and then they're gonna get you.
Well,
Granted,
they're gonna be lost because I don't fucking have a house.
mm-hmm. I was
So,
checking some of the wrong place. You're illuminated. You're all lit up. This is a podcast, I think. I don't know. I just woke up a few minutes ago because this day has been weird, but cool.
so
But
have
weird.
y'all seen the new trailer for the X-Files?
I haven't looked at it yet.
I've only ever seen
like for like the miniseries, right?
well for the 2015-16 revival of the show.
Right. No, I have not.
I've only ever seen a few episodes when I was younger, and I watched that and I was like, get hyped.
Get you at a nice Dutch angle now. What
I could get a jacket with the House Steiner logo on it.
Yeah, you
Steiner?
could. Yeah, this is BattleTech stuff, and we're going to talk about that
What the hell
later.
is BattleTech?
This Mech Warrior stuff, and we're going to talk about it later.
Yeah, same universe.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's...
Absolutely. But it's not a Mech Warrior game per se, since it's turn-based. But like I said, we'll talk about that. Anyways, episode number 11. I'm Kevin Harrison, your host. With me, I've got regular co-hosts as always tonight.
Hey, Trey Fuquay.
How you doing, Trey?
I'm doing all right. I'm getting real excited about one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight, actually. So.
Yeah, nice change of pace, I suppose. And also with us,
Miguel Torres.
hello, Miguel, at a nice Dutch angle and a nice backwards ball cap.
I'm sorry, I'm channeling Joe Rogan today.
It's all good. What have you been up to? What you been doing?
Midterms?
Those are things that students have, I suppose.
Yeah, I had 3 of them this week,
Midterms and what exactly?
and well, yeah.
What?
Really, just midterm. I haven't really done much else. Oh, Destiny. I played some Destiny.
No, I was wondering what midterms did you have, but if you don't want
Oh,
to say
in what? Okay, in what?
Yeah.
In computer science, in a we don't talk about it because it's discrete math,
Oh, I get it. I get it. It's a joke.
and biological anthropology.
Fun. Are those looking to be challenging or
I have a B in one of them, but it's close enough to an A where I can salvage it.
okie doke?
I can salvage my B.
Are classes still a thing for you, Trey, or have you transcended?
Oh no, I'm definitely still doing classes. I had my Japanese class today where we actually learned how to type Japanese on a computer with a normal keyboard using Romaji, and then I had my film history pre-1938, which has been all right. We're in the middle of like doing Soviet films like Battleship Potemkin at the moment. So.
Woo! You got those courthouse stairs. Roll, baby, roll. Yeah. God, I kind of miss that. For me, like, it's just, I don't know, work has been picking up. There are more football games, and that means more people come in sometimes. So that's a thing. And we train new guys.
So you're not the new guy anymore?
Not anymore. Now I'm training other people to someday take over my position and work for cheaper than I do, or something.
Move it up in the world.
Apparently. But some old friends got in touch with me from high school, and they're thinking about starting like a radio drama group thing that's supposed to like meet once a month and read short stories or short plays and then put them up into like a podcast or something. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah, I don't know if it's going to end up being a thing, like a small. I don't know. Like the thing I keep coming like we need a name, like Mercury Theater, because I'm sure that's not been taken before.
Well, also went to my girlfriend's 10-year high school reunion this past weekend.
What's that like?
It was all right. Like only about like 30 people showed up to this one. It mostly was just a bunch of drinking and people talking. Not as much drama as I would expect to be at one.
I guess that's reassuring. I don't know how I'd feel about going to my high school reunion.
Mine's supposed to be coming up this weekend, and I really don't want to go back to my hometown, to be 100% honest. But when it comes down to it, also I've got school stuff, so I don't really have time to be going out on the weekends very often.
Yeah, at least you have like a good excuse.
How did they contact you for that?
It just someone, one person that I'm friends with on Facebook linked me to the group.
Interesting. I suppose it's a lot easier in this day and age to
Yeah.
track down those people. I'm sure somebody put somebody in charge to do that. Would you go to your 10-year high school reunion, Miguel?
Me?
Yeah,
Yes,
you would.
I would.
Okay.
I'd like to see because when I was in high school, I was a heartbreaker.
Yeah,
So many,
I was getting broken up with pretty
so many
constantly in high
girls,
school.
so many girls wanted to date me until they found out, and then they cried.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I didn't date at all until I was already in the military. So
All I did, yeah, I've spent most of my high school career dating as it was, so probably it was dating somebody more often than I wasn't. And this is weird to think about. Let's talk about something similar, like the economics behind the multi-billion-dollar corporations and whatnot. That makes me feel better. As well as the value propositions surrounding the interactive pieces of artwork, because that's what we call Call of Duty now, is artwork. What's the last time people played Call of Duty, actually? So I just shifted through the topics ever so slightly.
I only really play the Nazi zombie stuff on those. I don't really play the games very much.
Mm-hmm. Miguel, what about you? Have you played any of the Call of Duty series?
I don't know. They're all. I don't know if and when I play any of those games because they all look the same to me, and I don't know what the differences are. I just see that you're in a semi-modern setting with guns.
So then I guess I was the only one that played last year's. And
if I was going to play one of those types of games, it would actually be more likely the Battlefield games, just because I like the systems in those a little bit better.
Mm-hmm, gotcha. I know, yeah, DJ is probably, out of our group of people, he probably is the one who's the biggest fan of traditional Call of Duty. I picked up last year's version of it, Advanced Warfare. I had a pretty good time with it for the most part. I thought it was pretty well done. Better than Ghost was, anyways. But news came out this week that Black Ops 3, the most recent, is going to be, I believe it's this month or early next month. It's the most recent iteration of the Call of Duty franchise. Is not going to have a campaign mode for the 360 and PS3 versions of the game. So, I mean, this is, yeah, I kind of like
now I have even less reason to buy it.
Right, but go ahead, Miguel.
So I just see this as a consequence of the older generations are not being able to keep up. Like, it's one part that, but another part being like, why are they cutting it? Like,
they said that they
because of multiplayer or something.
Well, yes, the campaign mode for this year is supposed to have 4-player co-op throughout. If you want to do that, you can do it online. But they were not apparently able to get the size, like the scope and the size and the connectivity of the game to what they consider to be an acceptable point for this year's iteration. So they've decided to cut that feature entirely. Traditionally, though, Call of Duty since, I guess, World at War, I want to say, has been built on usually a 3-pillar system. The main campaign, the multiplayer, and usually a third pillar that's Nazi zombies or Spec Ops mode. You're still going to get multiplayer, and you're still going to get the zombies feature for this year's version. And they're also going to reflect this lack of features, which also they're noting that they're cutting esports features, which they have in quotes here, as well as the gun painting option. It's not going to be in the last gen version either, but the price is going to drop down to $49.99 in order to reflect the content that is in the game.
My primary question would be, are they still going to have it where you can play multiplayer with every platform, or is it just going to be on like the 360 and you with other people that don't have the single player campaign?
I want to say,
what do you mean by every platform?
I mean, like Xbox 360 and Xbox One. If you could play multiplayer between both of those, PS3 and PS4.
I
understand if it's not going to be cross-platform completely, but within the same company at least.
I don't see that they would do that.
I think the platforms are all have their own server hopper. Like 360 players play with 360 players, and that's it.
Well, also that would be, if you're coming at this for the same reason why people say like console players are worse than PC players because they play on the controllers. But I think that's a shitty argument because on PS4 and PS3, you can add, like, you can just put like plug in your mouse and keyboard to it and get the same functionality. But
Yeah, but then
anyway,
you might as well be a PC player then.
Right, except you can't afford a PC for whatever reason.
but that
Um,
being said, I can if that functionality thing is going to set the barrier between competitive environments, then it would be unfair for older generations to be pitted against newer generation consoles because you would have things like graphic fidelity, draw distance, and things like that to
I
interfering with
believe
how
frame
like
rate's a big one as well.
frame rate and amount of polygons on the screen at once, like calling the things like those things would render more clearly and more plentifully on the new generation consoles than the old generation consoles.
Well, yeah, of course. And the only thing is, I just feel like you're going to have a much smaller user base on the last generation systems, and so therefore the multiplayer isn't going to really be as good, and it's not going to last as long.
I mean, you still have a pretty high install base with everybody who's bought those. You just have to take in mind that you have to average that against people in that install base that have also bought a next gen or current gen console now, and that they would probably buy a new version of that. I don't have any doubts in my mind that all of the platforms are not going to have any problem in terms of keeping multiplayer matches up and live and going because Call of Duty has still selling phenomenally well for being an annualized series. And once again, I mean, I'm glad that they make a last-gen version because there are plenty of people that still don't have these current-gen consoles, though I think that number is getting smaller and smaller by the day. And now that we're having to cut content away, you're making a better justification why we can't just do all of these games on both platforms, and that this is a clear thing that where if they tried to, that the last gen versions would be holding the games back. I was looking up some stuff right now. I can confirm that at the very least that there is not cross-platform play even between PC and Xbox One. And I'm fairly
Well, that
certain.
makes sense.
Yeah, if you
I
can't.
wrote an article about all this.
Right. But this is all Final Fantasy stuff, and that's
No, that's not Final Fantasy is the example. This is just
Yeah.
about cross-platform playing with anything that's Microsoft
right.
consoles.
Unless it's
Microsoft
it has to be Microsoft first party.
Exactly, for PC to Xbox One,
Mm-hmm.
which is still really disingenuous when they say PC to Xbox. They make it sound like it's almost all of them, but it's just first-party games.
Hmm.
But that being said, it's not like Black Ops is the only game that's being affected by older consoles. Like Destiny is also having to cull some of its features for older generation consoles as well, like the vault space and stuff.
Right, but and they're trying their best not to let the older consoles hold them back. But there's some dev stories talking about how they were messing around with systems when they made Taken King, and they found oh my god, the way we do things, we have an extra 2 megabytes of memory right here that we totally didn't account for. What do we do with it? And the dev teams apparently all brought their proposals, and the thing that was overwhelming to begin with is make the vault bigger. So that's what they did, just because they were able to fandangle working around. I think is it 512 megs of RAM in the old generation consoles? I think it's 512 for the 360 and 2 partitioned 256s on the PlayStation 3, which add up to 512, but they have to utilize them in such a manner, and that was
the PS3 was a lot more restrictive.
Right, and that's what caused the whole thing about Skyrim crashing after 90 hours of gameplay. The funny thing for me though with this is that essentially they have put a value proposition on the campaign mode of Call of Duty games, and they think
worth $10.
Worth $10.
Do you think that the campaign of a game like that is worth 16% of the game?
I'm tempted to say that it definitely pales in comparison to the multiplayer, which definitely has the longevity.
Well, okay, so there's that. The amount of play that you as a user does, but I'm saying from a development point, making all those maps, all those interactions, all those story, all that CGI stuff, is that development time 16% of the development of the entire game?
I bet it's more than that. I'll bet multiplayer does not take up that last what is it? What would that be then? 74%? No, 84%. Yeah, I think that the dev resources take up even more. Like you look at Advanced Warfare from last year, which did a meticulous job of not only of capturing Troy Baker's likeness for some of that cinematic stuff, as well as voice acting and whatnot. And Kevin Spacey for that. It was also a celebrity that was in there. There was an interesting find I listened to this week on Giant Bombcast. When they were talking about this, they looked up the achievements, at least I want to say on PlayStation 4, for people that for Advanced Warfare, which was last year's Call of Duty. They saw that only 25% of the user base that owned the game actually beat the first level of the campaign, had the trophy for it. So that tells you then that 75% of Call of Duty players there don't even touch the single player.
Well, but that's also
pretty commonly.
But that's also not including players. Like that metric is not including players who have online capabilities on their consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the people that would have offline, like that wouldn't have that. First of all, they wouldn't be able to play multiplayer, and second of all, there wouldn't be an ability to record their placement
on there. Yeah, so there could be a small segment that's offline.
But it's still pretty big.
Yeah, if you wanted, you would change the demographic then to people that have online functionality on their PS4. Still, that 75% of the people don't even touch that at all. Which sounds about right.
Another thing though is whenever you also have to you can't just say that, because you also have to measure how many of the, like, you can't just assume that these people are playing multiplayer because they're not playing campaign. Because if you look at any other game on PlayStation, for their trophy, even if it doesn't have a multiplayer component online, only like 7% of the people will actually have that first checkpoint trophy.
Yeah, I don't. You'd have to measure as well to see how many people have a multiplayer trophy of any kind. This was a very quick and dirty. This is not like a scientific study in any kind. I'm telling people, they went into their trophy database and they looked at the percentage that were presented by Sony, and it was just something as that's a percentage that is presented through the in-game UI, and it is corroborating what is already pretty much spoken, is that the people don't buy Call of Duty for the single player anymore. They buy it to play multiplayer, or as Trey put it, to play Nazi zombies.
Yeah, well, I feel like zombies is the what people who don't like PvP would play.
Mm-hmm.
PvP for some people can be really stressful, like myself.
Yeah, not my thing usually.
I played the beta for Black Ops 3 when that was a free weekend for a little while. I'm really bad at that multiplayer. Hell, I played Destiny's multiplayer now pretty often on daily stuff, and I'm not even that great either, but I get a little bit more enjoyment out of it. So
I went on a 20 kill streak the other day.
I do you one better. I played a game of Rift, and I managed to get 5 scores in a row.
Jeez.
I captured that video. I think I'm going to include that into my written review for
baby cheeses.
Yeah, it's I don't know what the other team was doing. They must have been asleep at the wheel, but it felt really good. I'm not going to lie, because when you make the slam dunk with the Rift artifact, it sends out a shockwave and it kills any enemies that are around the goal. So it's just like icing on the cake.
I made over 3,000 gold with my first Shinobi on Rogue Legacy.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Well, it's the there's a class in particular. It's like a treasure hunter or a miner or something.
The miner,
like that.
yeah.
That gets.
I haven't upgraded him yet though, so I don't know what that turns into. But
it's like double gold find or something like that. But it's really, if you want to, because at some point it's going to be less about leveling up and it's going to be more about getting your income in order to get that up. So, I'm guessing everybody in here has no intention of playing Black Ops 3, or as I like to do the acronym BLOPS 3.
It's just not really my thing. The community that tends to play the multiplayer is not necessarily the most friendly or welcoming.
What you saying, bro? What you saying? What you saying, bro? You ain't down?
Get good, bro. But even with that, it's very similar in, to say, like Counter-Strike, in that if you come in and you're not very good, no one's going to take it easy on you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not necessarily going to even learn.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much have to be, like I said, in the community now at this point. Yeah. I think this is not to say anything about UJ's character or anything like that, but there's a pretty good chance that he'll end up picking it up, and we can at some point hopefully talk with him about how that game ends up performing. Because, like I said, last year there was a lot of stuff to do, and um, Advanced Warfare and the new mobility was made that game a lot of fun to play. In fact, if it comes on sale, playing through it just to see digital Kevin Spacey is kind of worth it. So, yeah.
Press F to pay respects.
Let's go down the dock a little bit and do the other little thing that's related to Call of Duty. They're doing. Does everybody know what an ARG is?
Yes,
Augmented
alternate
reality
yeah.
gaming.
Well, no, in this we call it an alter. I guess yeah. If you're talking about wearing goggles or something, sort of like how my glasses now reflect the screen, it would be augmented reality. And this is like an alternate reality game, which is a marketing promotion thing.
I heart bees.
Exactly. IRBs is the most classic example, which is for Halo 2, I want to say, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Or 3. I'm pretty sure it's 2, though.
So on their Twitter account at Call of Duty, they are doing this ARG, which is, I think it's supposed to mirror story events that are going to happen before Black Ops 3, but they started out with these very official-looking tweets that look like news reports. The first one is talking about a dire situation that's in Singapore. They have, like, one example tweet here is, update, Singapore authorities have officially announced a state of emergency and declared martial law, apparently around some sort of explosion that happened there, and there's a quarantine zone getting set up, and it looks very official, very real, kind of scary, and in my mind a little bit tasteless here to something that could be mistaken as real news.
Wait. Hold on, you're saying the average person is going to mistake something that's posted on the Call of Duty Twitter as the actual news?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, some people, here's the thing, more and more people are going to social media right now for their news. I probably believe in, and yeah, buy into way too many stories that are posted in my Facebook feed, for example.
We all know that there's been someone out there who has read an Onion article and thought it was legit.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
So
There's a website generator out there that will make headlines for you so that when they pop up specifically in Facebook, they look real. One recently that I got was that Fallout 4 got delayed, and I was like, no! And then I clicked on it, and then it told me I had been punked, and Ashton Kutcher like started hanging on top, like around my shoulder, and said, "Wasn't that fun, bro? Let's go play Call of Duty." Yeah, that really happened. But yeah, I don't know. This is a weird sort of stunt to me, and people are getting really critical against this as well. So, like, there's response. So, at Call of Duty has more than 2 million followers and is faking news. This could be devastating to those unaware if video game marketing. It's awful. Everybody is just saying that it's like a Twitter stunt and it's bad and a social media nightmare. What are you? Okay, do you think that this is fine, or do you think this is tasteless, or what?
This kind of reminds me of what was it? That thing that happened with the radio ages ago, where they were doing this dramatic reading.
Orson Welles' War of the Worlds.
Yes.
Wow.
Where it kind of reminds me of this because somewhere someone might read this and think it's actually happening, and then it might be affecting their loved ones, and then they will call them and think that something's actually going on. That's the only thing I can think of, like the extreme of this.
Yeah, I can see that as an extreme case. But in my opinion, people should just be smart enough to know better than this. I know that some aren't.
I guess that's the tragedy or the cruel. Some people aren't smart enough, Trey. Some people just aren't. Some people that follow Call of Duty on their Twitter just aren't smart enough.
But there have been times where Fox News, where Fox News will report on something that's not real, thinking that it's real.
I'll just assume that everything that comes out of their mouth is a lie. But that's me.
The game of telephone that can be played on Twitter and other social media platforms is so easy and fast, I guess, compared to other mediums that we've had in the past before, like a simple retweet button, or making your own retweet in 140 characters or less, is kind of like, I could see how this might spin out of control someday, and then it gets to somebody and it turns into a news story, and then suddenly somebody's pressing the button. And wow, it was all over a video game alternate reality.
Why don't people just check their sources, though? Just look at it again.
Trey,
People don't
that
do
takes too
that.
long. It takes too. I gotta get my news story out there first. Ugh. We don't have time to check sources and be ethical and responsible.
I don't have time to explain.
Why I don't have time to explain.
It had to
Yeah,
be
I don't
done.
know. I think maybe this is an opinion article that I've been looking at. Maybe it's been kind of hyperbolic around this. Like,
I would agree. Like, people need to calm down.
Mhm.
People. Well, also lately there's this whole kind of like thing going on with American society where everyone either has to be extremely if you're not being politically correct, then people will say that someone somewhere is being offended, or that you.
Miguel, politically correct is a trigger for me. I need to take that back and put a trigger warning on your entire argument before we keep going.
Put the words back into your mouth. Breathe in the same air. The sound waves have to return.
Otherwise, I'm going to be very offended.
But it's. I would say what's doing more harm is probably all this publicity that like where people are being critical of it and is making it like the Barbra Streisand effect.
Gotcha.
Kind of where like these stories are going to be put out there, and then people are going to report about how they shouldn't pay attention to them, but then more people are going to pay attention to them, so on and so forth.
Like, this is the adage, there's no such thing as bad press. You're just going to give more, even if you're critical of it, you will give more exposure to the subject. This segment, this Activision segment, sponsored by, Activision Blizzard, Call of Duty.
Doritos.
Sure to pick up their
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew and Doritos. Yeah. Oh, look, Jeff Keighley, you just got here. Good to see you. Yeah, but let's move on. We're currently at. Oh, if we're going to keep talking about multiplayer shooters that don't have single player, I guess Rainbow Six Siege. Was anybody looking forward to that?
That's a little bit sad because I actually really like the Rainbow Six series in general. I played Rainbow Six Vegas a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And as I talked about in shows past, probably back on the radio station, I have a really deep respect for Tom Clancy and his work. So it's
as a military man yourself, does Clancy's work resonate with you in a way that you think is due to your own military service?
Dude, I was a cook. I just think he writes well.
I believe the Hunt for Red October is one of the nautical canon that exists right there, and the cook could be the most dangerous person on that sub.
Look, when it comes right down to it, Sean Connery wasn't on my sub.
Oh.
Also, I'm not Steven Seagal. So.
Wait, wasn't no? It was.
Steven Seagal was Under Siege, and he was a cook that used to be a former Navy SEAL.
Right.
Yeah.
It was one of the Baldwins that was in Hunt for Red October, wasn't it? Wasn't Adam? Was it?
I don't even know. It's been so long since I've watched that movie.
Alec Baldwin, he's so handsome.
That's the one. Yeah. I should go back and watch it. Yeah, you go back to even the first Rainbow Six game, and they had a story or a series of missions back to back, but they essentially had permadeath on their characters, where if one of your guys died in an early mission, you get to use them for the rest of them. So, at the same time, I'm not entirely surprised because all we've ever seen for Rainbow Six Siege has really been multiplayer footage, except for that one really nice HD looking head of. It's supposed to be the director of the CIA, who's the same person that was in Ender's Game. I can't remember what her name is now. The same person who's playing Amanda Palmer, I think, in Suicide Squad. It's either that or I'm just mixing up all sassy black women and what they
racist.
Pretty much, yeah.
I just so dropping single player is becoming the norm. What feels like the norm in the first person Mountain Dew Doritos kind of genre now, because even Star Wars isn't going to have a single player, and even Evolve didn't have a single player.
That's so strange to me too, just because Star Wars, a franchise that is pretty much nothing but story, even if it's the same story told over and over. But I mean, that's a good enough reason not to do it anymore.
I want to say that this is a result of the MOBA scene, because the MOBA scene has shown that a game that has fantasy or story elements can thrive and can survive without a single player story focused campaign. and
Oh my
that's
God.
kind of being translated to the first-person shooter.
If you want to look at the result of like MOBA effects on FPS, go. If you look at Halo 5 right now, they have a mode called Warzone that is basically a MOBA
MOBA.
map. Yeah, pretty much. There are
I,
objectives around and creeps to fight.
that sounds great to me. I wish that more genres, more developers would acknowledge what facets of MOBAs are succeeding and would try to reintegrate and iterate on those design choices.
I mean, Titanfall did that pretty good as well.
Like
And
the mixture of PvE and PvP, I think is very good and very rich for a game
mhm.
that's focused on multiplayer. Like, what's that game that I can never remember it? It's the one that we saw at E3 that they just recently announced, the Samurai.
It's not Chivalry, it's For Honor.
Yeah,
For
For
Honor.
Honor.
Yeah, like For Honor looks
And
incredible
that's
to me.
the actual title. It's quote. It's not Chivalry. It's For Honor. Just like it's DiGiorno essentially. You can't just say For Honor. You have to say it's not Chivalry. It's For Honor.
But-
I mean,
If anything, it's a combination of Chivalry and Dynasty Warriors, but
right. But it's
Now,
neither of those games. It's For Honor.
Now,
Yeah.
with all that being said, how would you feel if like single-player campaigns started falling off of like fighting games or like StarCraft, or like I mean,
The most memorable single player mode I think in a fighting game in recent memory is Mortal Kombat 9, and that's only because it was the ninth iteration that had story to build up off of the old games and some extra canon stuff.
apparently 10 is supposed to be good too. But then one of the best things about Injustice was the story.
Yeah, those are the only exceptions I can think of. I go to Tekken 5, for example, and it was a bunch of silly story ending stuff. The biggest story beat in Tekken was Heihachi Mishima is dead, and then it turns out he's not.
JK.
Thanks, guys.
So how would you feel if not Heralds of the Stars? What is it called?
Heroes of the Storm? No.
No, the third StarCraft.
Oh, Jesus. Not Aeon of
Something of the
Strike. That's
Void.
not the book. Yeah, something. Legacy of the Void. That's it.
Yeah, what if Legacy of the Void didn't have a single-player campaign?
I think you'd be losing part of your audience there, but I think
Pretty
the game
good
would already.
chunk.
I think your game would already be out because the multiplayer scene is still pretty vibrant.
I just feel that given the history of this whole dropping the single player aspect of these games that have historically had single player and multiplayer elements to them, I feel that the only time that they're being successful, that it is successful, is when they're, like for shooters at least, is when it's backed by a gigantic brand.
There's been some talk about the idea of separating up products so that you could buy just the single player or just the multiplayer portion, and if you want it all together, you buy it for like $60. I think that's a decent-ish proposal as well.
That kind of sounds like games. I mean, that sounds kind of weird because generally, one additional price to having to play these games online is having to having to pay for Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus. Like that's already a barrier of entry for a lot of people, and so I don't know.
But there are games that are marketed with that limitation in mind. Destiny even has its own single-player stuff. You don't need PlayStation Plus, but you can't do any of the multiplayer-esque activities without it.
Is the box for Black Ops 3 going to say on it no single-player campaign?
No, there is a single. Well, for the last generation, yes.
Yeah. Is it going to say that?
Oh no, it won't say it, but it will. I am curious to actually see the box. There's no way you could put that on the box that does not include single-player campaign, because it's just a marketing no-no, essentially.
Well, I mean, you could butter it up and say
Intense multiplayer package or something.
Multiplayer package or something.
Being honest is a marketing no-no, is what you're saying?
Well,
Pretty
it's
much,
manipulating your message.
Exactly.
Doing it poorly is a no-no.
It's like selling yourself short on your dating profile. You don't want to highlight your faults. You want to highlight what's positive about you.
I wouldn't know about that, Kevin.
When you do make a dating profile someday, Trey.
Yeah,
I'm not going to ask
obviously.
why. It'll probably be some sort of social experiment, but these are the ways that you, I guess, go out on dates, or so I've been told. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens with Rainbow Six and how Siege turns out, because it's been getting good review, or like the beta stuff that's been going on, people seem pretty interested with it. But that's just me. What about? I mean, you've seen some gameplay stuff for Siege, right?
Who?
You, Trey?
Wait, what are we looking at? Sorry.
Rainbow Six Siege. The
Oh,
game.
that. Yeah, a little bit. It looks like a Rainbow Six game. It reminds me a lot of some of the stuff that I did back in Rainbow Six Vegas and Rainbow Six Vegas 2. It's got the ability to shoot through walls to some extent, some squad-based tactics that you have to worry about, getting taken down in very few hits, which is one of my favorite things about it, actually. And just like the plethora of fairly accurate equipment is also a really good plus for that game series usually. I haven't gotten in depth into what this one looks like. I'm a tiny bit less likely now that I know that there's not going to be a single-player campaign, but we'll see.
Okay.
I just remember I saw a nice burp.
Thank you.
I saw a GIF. I don't know anything about that Rainbow Six stuff, but what I saw was a GIF. This guy climbing the side of the building, setting up some ordnance on the side, jumping off, it exploding, and then him charging in and like just killing someone that was behind the wall.
The breaching.
That looks freaking incredible.
Well, the breaching game has always sort of been I want to say it's since Vegas it's been really emphasized. Yeah. Climbing up the sides of buildings, though, coordinating with your team, usually through hand signals.
Jumping through a window after rappelling down off the top of a building while your buddies bust in the front door at the same time and you just gun down the enemies from both sides is extremely satisfying.
Like they made it something where it was a sort of setup and an execution thing that really took, I guess, a bit of finesse, and then other games said, that looks really cool, we want to do that too, and they turned it into a quick time event. So it's worth noting about. Let's keep going. Mighty Number 9 has a release date right now. It's currently set for February 9th.
About freaking time.
Get the synergy for next year.
I wonder if like, I feel like most people are just kind of, like the hype has really died down.
Yeah.
It's taking forever. I wonder if the hype's going to pick up in a substantial way before it's released.
There is something to be said about having extremely low expectations going into something and then having them superseded easily. So I can't say that's necessarily a tactical move in their favor, but
I feel like this is one of those examples of a game that, for all intents and purposes, gets announced way before its release, and it kind of misses that window of hype.
Yeah.
But given it's a Kickstarter game, though, that kind of is an exception of some sort. But for other Kickstarters, like Divinity, like that came out as a Kickstarter, people were so excited when it came out. Like there's several, but this is just going on forever.
Yeah, I'm honestly just want it to come out so I can stop talking about it. It's sort of dragging other Kickstarters down in terms of bad examples. Granted, it's not as bad as some. There was one this week, I think it was Mansion Simulator or something like that. It was a crowdfunded game for $30,000, and the devs just disappeared with the money. And those give the really bad names.
I told you.
I mean, I didn't throw any money into that.
I mean, like this is one of those risks.
Yes, sure, it happens. I mean, this is still risky too, but I mean, so I hope it's got Kenji Inafune's name writing on it, and otherwise people are just gonna go down in history like, yeah, he's the father of Mega Man, but curse him. So
I still can't believe that he tried to get more money for a different game before this game came out. Like, how in what world does that sound like a good idea?
I mean, there's plenty of Kickstarters that go back for like second runs. It's to try to get their stretch goals again on for the same project. But yes, it did look like a reason. And I mean, that Red Ash Kickstarter did fail. It did fall on its before it got picked up by China, essentially. So
the Republic of China.
So kind of failed. But yeah, I don't know. That game will come out. I'll review it, and it'll be a thing. Real quick. Fun fact, Fallout 4's install size, according to Microsoft right now, is 28.12 gigs on the Xbox One.
Jeez.
I have got some comparison numbers right here. These are all for Microsoft consoles for when the games came out. Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 4, that was 5.87 gigs on its release. Fallout 3 was 5.48 gigs. It was actually smaller than Oblivion, granted it was actually bigger than that game. Skyrim, larger than both those games, was 3.68 gigs when it came out initially, before all the patches got put on top of it. So that's
That's
Bethesda's work and how
that's
good they are.
optimization getting better as you're using your engine right there.
Right. Some comparisons, though, to what we have as current gen stuff on the Xbox One. Grand Theft Auto 5 clocks in at 49 gigabytes. And it's kind of weird, too, because it was something that was made for last gen and brought over to this gen. I do wonder about what compression technology stuff goes on for that and how Rockstar makes their games, but they have a rather large footprint. Destiny I think, is currently now 30 gigs, is what I had pulled up here. So it's about the same size. But once again, if the previous numbers are to note, Bethesda is really good at making really large worlds and not so large file sizes.
If Skyrim was a little over 3.5 gigs, and Fallout 4 is going to be like almost 9 times more than that, that's just gonna blow my mind. Like when that's just.
I doubt that it's going to be bigger, that much bigger, so much as it will more likely just have higher graphical fidelity,
the texture quality.
items.
But that's not even like.
They have said that it is going to be bigger than Skyrim.
I don't even think that's like a fair argument, because Oblivion was just under twice as big as Skyrim.
Right.
Skyrim is on a newer, higher fidelity engine as well.
They have gone on and said that this game is bigger than Skyrim. We don't know how much bigger per se, but I would not say that it is 9. My guess is that it is not 9 times bigger than Skyrim. Granted, this is just a guess. I think you're both sort of right that texture compression and stuff like that, it helps to bring that number down, but you're still dealing with some higher res stuff, and like volumetric lighting is another thing that is probably going to take up a lot of resources as well. But at the same time, though, I would expect that this is the default texture set that comes out, and I would not be surprised, because this happened, I know, with Skyrim on PC, that they eventually offered an official high-res texture pack, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that will probably... They've said that the PC file size is somewhere pretty close to that, and then I would imagine it gets even bigger once they do an HD texture pack for it.
Is Fallout 4 using the Skyrim engine?
A heavily modified version of the Gamebryo engine, or the Creation engine as they call it. It is still the same framework that has been built for every Bethesda game since Oblivion.
Okay.
But it is... Like, the lighting engine is the thing that's gotten the heaviest pass, I know, for this past one. Because they've talked about, like I said, the volumetric lighting and how this is like a really big deal.
I just wish they would fix those NPCs. They always look really weird to me.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of footage out right now. In fact, they actually went over how the perk system works for Fallout 4 this past week, which was interesting. Essentially, you gotta look at like the charisma line of perks, for example, and how each stat point that you had would let you start up a new perk, and each perk had between 3 and 5 tiers. For the charisma stuff, it was interesting because it would be like you could aim at an enemy to get them to drop their weapon. So if you want to do a pacifist playthrough or something of that nature, and then get them to work for you instead. It's neat to go look at that video. Still, the game I'm really looking forward to. For the end of this year, it's probably going to cap everything off. Comes out in a little bit less, or a little bit more than a month now, November 10th. Miguel, you put up this thing about Bloodborne.
Okay, so Sony article title from Destructoid says Sony rewards Bloodborne Platinum trophies with custom theme. Now, this article, I'll just read the brief summary. In the European region, Sony has awarded an exclusive Bloodborne UI theme for players who acquire the Platinum. Now, at first, I just looked over this and I was like, oh, cool. But then I started thinking, like, well, this could open a lot of doors. Because when you start attaching rewards for players who reach a certain amount of completion in a game, then that would, like, let's say that you could get this OST from
the soundtrack or something
from the PlayStation Store if you get X amount of completion with all the trophies. Like, I feel like this could be iterated on in such a way to provide like more free stuff or more incentives to complete a game and further involve the trophy into like the design of the marketing and stuff.
I know what this is going to evolve into. One of the new features that got added to the PS3 UI is the ability to do stickers and messages.
PS4.
It's going to be exclusive stickers based on getting trophies, and then that will make people chase new games. Initially, when like trophies and achievements were a thing that started out, I guess achievements actually, and Microsoft was doing their. Does anybody remember the Microsoft points that you would buy stuff on the Microsoft store?
Yeah, I never
Yeah,
messed with it, but I know what you're talking about.
I assumed initially before when the Xbox came out, you would get achievements and they would give you Microsoft points, so that if you got 1,000 points, you would have like oh wow, I'm close to 1,600. I can go buy a new game if I get enough achievements, and that was not the case. But it'd be interesting if like you got a platinum, if you got like a $5 off at on the online. I mean, a pretty insidious way to get people to buy more games.
Like, I've seen some other stuff attached to having achievements or having played games. Like, I remember like on the 360 getting that little avatar item that was the little round orb thing from Halo games.
Yeah, there was a few games that did that. The Summer of Arcade games were pretty popular with giving T-shirts or alternate heads for your avatar. Avatars are still a thing. Yeah, they're in the Xbox One version. So, I mean, something like this has already been done. But this is the first time I've heard about it on like PlayStation consoles, and the UI theme looks pretty cool. And that Bloodborne trophy is no joke, because the last part is going through so many levels of the Chalice dungeons. Yeah.
I just think like it could, like, if they attach this to the trophy system or to the achievement system, and then just have little rewards there that have nothing to do with the game because they are external assets. Like, it could be really interesting. Like, another thing that kind of popped into my mind was how Magic Online, if you acquired every single card from a set, they would mail you the set IRL.
Yeah.
And if you acquired every single premium card, they would send you a IRL foil set.
Mm-hmm. That was for Moto, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish that the system was trophies and achievements have always been a sort of cool thing, but doesn't really have any teeth, especially if you don't play in communities that care about that kind of thing. And actually, it's pretty interesting if you find a friend and you start achievement hunting and things like that, and so you can get the highest score. You find games that are like really easy, or games you want to absolutely 100%. I think Fallout 3 on the console was the only game that I ever got all the achievements attached to. And Walking Dead, I guess.
On 360, the only game that I ever got all the achievements for was this one really bad Terminator game that came out. And it was just because my cousin rented it, and I was staying with him for a while, and it was there, so I played it.
Yeah.
I only got platinum on 2 games. It was Infamous 2 and Infamous 3, or Second Son.
Gotcha.
I almost got platinum on Infamous 1, but I think my game bugged out and I couldn't find the last dead drop.
Yeah, I think there just would have to be, like, I think the UI theme is a pretty cool thing to do. I know I got a Destiny UI theme a while back, and I like it.
But that was for having bought it, or pre-ordered or whatever,
right.
Not for having completion in a game.
Right. I think themes are a good thing to shoot for, but I think there are better rewards that could be done. I just don't know what yet. So
the OST. If I could get 80% completion rate on a trophy on a Destiny, and I could get that swank ass Destiny OST, I would do that. I would be like, yes, free OST, let's get it.
Yeah, but why would they let you do that when they can just get you to buy it?
I mean, they could also get you to buy a theme. The thing is, if this the whole thing is, if this whole system can get you this invested into a game, then the likelihood of you buying the sequel or an expansion increases dramatically because you're that invested in it.
Yeah, I mean, it could have a sort of cyclical feeding effect.
And like, you putting it there, like, the amount of people who would actually obtain the OST is probably going to be very, very small compared to the user base. Yeah, and also the amount that would impact your sales
Mhm.
of the OST in general would probably be insignificant.
Right. Then that's not exactly special either. There needs to be. I feel like rewards like this should be very unique and something worth bragging about. Something that you're not supposed to be. And the closed the system nature of the UI themes for the PS4 is one of the like. Yes, that's something that's not going to be very easy to replicate. I think the soundtrack may be a little less so, but hell, I don't know. Unlocking game features is another thing that's sort of been proposed around it. Like you only get this skin or whatever to use online if you have all the achievements. Is a possibility as well. Anyways, real quick, want to go ahead and shout out to people in the chat watching us live. Say hi. Kyle Regal says all the textures. All the textures.
In reference to Fallout 4.
And somebody else is playing RuneScape while they're listening to this, which they should.
That's my buddy we had on the other night from the Japanese class.
I was talking with somebody at work, actually, who was also talking about going back and playing RuneScape. Apparently, they've changed around the combat quite a bit.
I got Michael something. Damn, where is it? So I was walking through Ed McKay's, and I found a RuneScape novel.
Wow.
And I bought it for him as a gag gift.
Because story in RuneScape?
Here it is.
I'm expecting something like the Minecraft.
Yeah, see? It's like old school RuneScape. Look at that logo.
It's pretty good. It's PS4 firmware. This sounds like right up your alley here.
Okay,
Miguel.
so I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to say I'm just going to mention a few things that will actually be of note. So the first one is cloud storage is being increased to 10 gigabytes from 1 gigabyte, which is pretty big. You can now stream to YouTube. So like supporting the whole gaming.youtube.com thing. Now, one thing that's interesting is official event support. So this means like games like Destiny or games like Drive Club or any game that has some sort of online event happening in the game, they can integrate that into the PS4 UI and send you notifications for games that you like.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not playing like Diablo and like Diablo Season 3, it starts on PS4, but you haven't really touched Diablo in like a year, then it's just like bam, Diablo Season 3, and it might pique your interest. Like kind of keeps you more in the loop at very little, with very little investment.
So one of the other features I've noted on here is that communities are now a thing that you can generate. But apparently there is no search functionality for communities at the moment.
No, you have to go to the page, like you go to the game, and then from the game's description, somewhere in that little page when you hit down, it'll be there.
The search?
No, not the search, the communities.
I know, you can find the communities feature, but you can't search out individual communities.
Oh, yeah.
Which seems so like an oversight. Like if we make the Pixel Loadout community and how many members we have, it's going to be so popular at the bottom of the list.
I think that, okay, so that kind of...
It'll be at the bottom. It'll be like third from the bottom.
That's kind of weird. I think communities should should remain restricted to the games, because I would prefer them to be about the games and not about communities around the games, so that you can go into the communities and find people. Like in Destiny, you could go, instead of going to lfg.com,
you go. I can appreciate that, but you need to be able to find the individual communities easily and not scroll through an entire menu. Like,
I don't know. I don't understand what you're saying. Like, you go to the game that you already have up,
go to
and
the
then
menu,
hit down.
It will display a list of communities that are associated with the game. Now, Destiny probably has upwards of 100+ communities on day one. I want to find the individual community that, for example, let's say is the Kotaku, raid striking community or something like that. Unfortunately, they only have like 12 members, and they can't get their numbers up because people have to scroll down to the bottom. They can't type in Kotaku.
They might. Okay, so you think that's a mess? This is a mess. This is one of the crappiest things about this update is they added groups, they added favorites lists. So if so whenever you think about a favorites list on a friends list, you think, oh, I'm going to have this private selection of a friend that I could assign to different members of my friends list, so I can quickly look to see if any of my friends from school are online or any of my friends from work are online, so on and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way that it works on PS4 is everyone gets effectively added onto a group chat. So every time someone is added, everyone in the group is notified. They're not private.
This is like people trying to use email for the first time, and then they don't know how to take people off like a multi-used art.
BCC.
Yeah, and then everybody keeps getting updates for the next 30 days.
Or even like those stupid group text messages
Yeah,
that
I
people
hate
keep
those.
sending me, and I was like, but my texts.
Yes, and it's gonna keep vibrating in my pocket.
So
Yeah,
they
see-
need to they need to do something about that. That's just
I've still owned like a crappy flip phone, and so whenever someone sends a group message from their smartphone, it comes to me as a data message. Now I have unlimited data on this thing. Not that that really matters because I can only download one thing, and then anytime I try to keep downloading, it'll just say failed to download or receive until like 2 hours later. So I can look up one and then 2 hours later look at another.
Trey's right. We need to just burn it all down. Go back to the Stone Age. This is just not worth messing with.
so. But this is like what I wanted to highlight here is that this is. Also, there are a few fixes in the background that aren't posted on there or aren't posted in the patch notes. Like you can now see, like there's a UI element in on the PS4 now that will show you how much of your cloud space is being taken up.
Mm-hmm.
There is a capture gallery is now tiled, so it's more user friendly. You can now disable trophy screenshots so that it doesn't take up all your memory or your hard drive space rather.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
You can play music off of the USB sticks now.
that's been a while. That's been like 3 updates ago.
No, but you can do it while you're in a game application now.
That's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2 patches ago because the last patch they introduced the exact same functionality but with Spotify.
Right. No, wait, I'm sorry. I misread this. Apparently they removed that feature. Sony confirmed that the UPS app player has been discontinued. The functionality isn't gone, forcing everyone to buy Spotify. No, okay. So they moved it. Okay, that's what. It's now a media player app on its own. So apparently it's a little less obtuse, but people that were using it before a certain way, like they had to do a different roundabout.
So, but this is Sony giving people things they never asked for and ignoring the things that people want. Like people still want being able to use their PS4 as a media hub on their networks. They also want being able to have friend notifications when friends sign online.
People also still want to be able to change their name.
Like these
That's never gonna happen.
So basic. I wouldn't say simple, but so basic.
Apparently not. Like the name change thing, they haven't been able. People have been requesting for years now, and like
Since
whatever
the
way
PS3,
that the PlayStation username database is built, they apparently can't take that part out and make it so it's changeable. Like the Excel file is like engraved in stone or something like that, and if they do that, the whole house of cards just falls.
I'm just assuming they're choosing not to spend the money on figuring out how to do that.
Oh, it would be so easy.
That'd be so much money.
It'd be so.
Are you a programmer, Kevin? Do you know it'd be easy?
No, but it's still like the you cannot deny, and I guess the longer they hold it off, at this point you could charge people $50. There are so many people that have bad.
There are people that have terrible. The only way to get your name changed on PSN is because the functionality is there because it happens. You know how to do it. It has to be an offensive or an incredibly lewd name, and they will give you the opportunity to change your name.
But I can't even change my name to something incredible, offensive, and lewd because I just made it my stupid email address. So, oh well. I guess real name requests are still a thing there. But yeah, no, it's just. I guess Miguel and I probably know a little bit more about this because we listened to the PlayStation podcast at IGN, and they used to have this regular segment when it was still Greg and Colin where they would get stories of the worst usernames.
I love you, XOXO. That's what it's called now.
Yeah. And so they even had like people like Shuei Yoshida on asking and they always just got obtuse answers. So it's just that would be the thing they should do in an update
one day.
But whatever. Hey, YouTube streaming, that's a thing. So cool. Michael Stein wants to know.
And now we're also getting an official Twitch app soon.
Yep, it's true.
On PS3, PS2, and PS Vita.
Shoutouts to Mike here. You will get all my group text later. But yeah. There was an XSplit update today, or like a few stuff adding like.
Oh, need to go get that then.
Yeah, at some point, so you can not stream stuff.
I'm actually going to attempt to stream tonight, assuming I get my homework finished at a decent time. Go get Fallout New Vegas reinstalled and just like do the first parts of that game with
Go
like
for it.
just the courier pack stuff.
Go for it. Just go through each single item and talk about its game usefulness. So actually, earlier today, before the stream, I did an hour of The Walking Dead Season 2, and I contemplated the nature of choice and narrative games. So if you feel like looking at that while Clementine performs surgery on herself, it's a good time. It's once again, Miguel, you've added some stuff talking about Japan and the Xbox. Tell me about Scalebound.
So it's not so much about Scalebound, but it's about Xbox. Like the developer of an executive is saying that Scalebound will be the game that moves units in Japan.
So Scalebound, this is the Hideki Kamiya's next game. Notable, he was the guy that was the director behind Bayonetta, as well as the first and the third Devil May Cry, I believe. Known for, I think he's with Platinum now, and they're known for large action pedigree.
Bayonetta was a big deal on the Wii U, so.
I love me some Bayonetta. He's basically my spirit animal.
There you go. But and so yeah, Scalebound is once again another one of those sort of high octane action games, but looks like adding in large monster combat, a la I guess Monster Hunter almost.
What's that MOBA game? That Titans?
I don't know.
I forget. Like it's a MOBA game that is going to have like basically like a team first-person shooter, team-based first-person shooter, but also has giant monsters that fight with you.
See, that just sounds like Titanfall, but that's not what that is. That's not Battleborn either. I don't know. But anyways, I do not agree with this article.
Well,
I don't think anything can save the Xbox over in the East.
Well, I mean, you don't have to. The article isn't making the point. The article is just reporting on what the executive said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't agree with the executive then.
So the only it would have.
Let's get the executive name, Masashi Inahune.
I think exactly the opposite. It's not that Xboxes will sell more. I think that this game will sell dramatically fewer copies than it could have.
That's another way of putting it, yeah. Because it is only on Xbox One.
Yeah.
The thing, I'd say like they're already getting a little bit of publicity, just like given the fact that we're talking about it right now because of that article, and so just that executive coming out and saying, "Hey, this is gonna do great," makes people at least go look at it. So there is the off chance that it could help sales. I agree with Miguel though. I don't think it will.
But that being said, like the only other company I can think of that would have even bigger, even larger effect on Japanese sales would be Square Enix. And Square Enix, and this goes back to the Xbox 360 era where Microsoft really wanted. They wanted Infinite Undiscovery and The Last Remnant.
Was Lost Odyssey on PS3?
It was made by I think
Mistwalker.
One of the director was involved in making it, and it was a RPG exclusive. They got kind of mid-high reviews, but so you had Square Enix made a deal with Microsoft to make exclusives for the Xbox 360 to help the Xbox 360 sell well in Japan. So this has already happened in history. It didn't work.
This is one of those things that if you have looked at the video game industry for any length of time, and even going back in time and looking at trends that would have happened, those are like the failed projects that never came out or got shuffled around. And it's one of the things that just happens in history in general, things trying to repeat itself and never going well. Like this seems to be what this case was. Like I recall, Lost Odyssey was only for the 360, and Blue Dragon wasn't that also?
Blue Dragon was another game, yeah.
Yeah, but those games are known for some cult followings and being really well-reviewed games. Lost Odyssey was like 3 or 4 discs long, but it wasn't enough to save the console over there.
Yeah, like the purpose of it then being exclusive wasn't because the developer was like, I believe in this thing. It's that they had an agreement with Microsoft to try to ship these units in their native country, and it just didn't work.
Lost Odyssey was real good though.
Yeah. I wouldn't say real good. I would say it's good because as soon as you get that guy's wife,
never mind.
Jeez, that game just like explodes. Like she is so strong. Like that game has a pretty decent difficulty, and then when you hit bosses, it can get really hard. But as soon as you get that woman, I think her name is like Sarah or something. It's just that game becomes trivial.
So I'm all for whatever strategy people, especially if Microsoft wants to, in order to pump money into games if we get good games from good creators. And I think Kamiya is a great creator. My only problem is that games now have a penchant for always wanting to start a franchise. Especially go look at something like Ubisoft, for example. We don't get a lot of games in the AAA space that aren't standalone products and end on their own notes. They have to start playing into what the next game is going to be. That's my only worry. Scalebound looks good. I hope that it doesn't end as like, oh, I guess the big boss is just over, 2 games yonder there, because
but
I don't think it's going to get. But I mean, maybe I've been proven wrong before with something like Bayonetta and other smaller projects. I don't know if Scalebound will get a sequel before it comes out.
I always, every time I think of Scalebound, I just always think of Horizon Zero Dawn instead. I'm just like, that's the game that actually caught my interest.
What are you trying to say, Trey?
I mean, even if there is like other sequels to the game, they could decide to go the route of like Final Fantasy, where the majority of the storylines within it are single game storylines, and then you move on to the next one.
So Final Fantasy does that. Zelda liked to do that, and then somebody decided to put a timeline together for it.
Dragon Quest.
I'm trying to think, are there any other... Yeah, Dragon Quest also, like, the themes are the same, but the games are rather self-contained.
Star Ocean, kind of, sort of, not really.
I'm trying to think of other series. Tony Hawk, maybe? Yeah, Tony Hawk is up to... Tony Hawk 5 came out today. I believe that... Okay, if you guys had to take a guess, if you want to try counting it yourself, which numbered... Out of all the, like, main series Tony Hawk games, which number is Tony Hawk 5 now?
Like 7 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah, isn't it like 7 or 8 because of Underground?
It's actually 12.
Jeez, like I knew they had the American Wasteland and Underground, but I didn't know about more than that.
Tony Hawk Ride, and then there was a sequel to that as well, which is the game that actually had the real board that didn't really work.
Yeah.
Now, Tony Hawk Project 8 was actually the 8th iteration of that game. But really, who cares, because this is the 5th Tony Hawk game.
This sounds like Mario Kart.
No, it sounds like Final Fantasy.
No, I mean like Mario Kart.
Kingdom
Mario
Hearts
Kart,
naming crap.
just like, or no, it sounds like Windows.
There you go. What happened to 9? You're hiding it from me, you bastards.
So-
I know it.
So Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 came out, and it had really bad reviews. I was going to say mildly bad reviews, but
I've been looking at stuff today. People that are big fans are sort of trying to glaze over it a little bit, but you look at gameplay of that, it just looks janky as hell.
So one of the good things about this game being made, however, is that this is apparently the last year that Activision has a license with the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater franchise.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to want
So-
to renew after what Robomoto has done with this, so... Yeah, it'd be weird to see if it goes into like a free space for that. The best publicity stunt I saw for this, though, is that EA right now has all of their Skate series 50% off on most of their consoles, which I think is a pretty funny move. I think Skate is probably taken over what Tony Hawk was supposed to be. You can go look at videos for that right now, and you can go skate as Lil Wayne, and that's about all I got to say
Lil Wayne.
about that game.
Oh, okay, that explains the Conan segment they did.
Okay. Oh, is he with Lil Wayne talking about?
Yeah. Conan O'Brien does like the Clueless Gamer segment from time to time, and he had Tony Hawk and Lil Wayne playing the game with him. And I was just wondering, like, why in the world is Lil Wayne there?
Yeah,
But that
Tony
makes sense
Hawk's
now.
getting on in years.
He's starting to look. He's got some gray in his hair, that's for sure. But I mean, whatever. He's still skateboarding and doing it responsibly. He still has he wears a helmet, which I can say for him more than most other skaters. So there's that. Okay. GameStop believes that disc-based games will never go away, according to one executive. What do you guys think?
All right. As much as I am a person that enjoys to have an actual physical copy of any video games or movies and things of that nature, just because then I know I have a copy, when it comes right down to it, we're moving more and more and more into a digital age. And it's just unrealistic to think that you're going to be continuing to make that into your bread and butter.
That's incredibly forward-thinking coming from Old Man Trey. What about you, Miguel?
I would agree. Like, it's not, but for me, it's not so much that the digital infrastructure, like the digital medium, is an inevitability, but it's just like, what is the purpose of a CD when it comes to games? It's to transfer the data. Because now, the only you don't need a disc to play the game. You really just need the disc to install it and to serve as DRM.
Pretty much,
Because
yeah.
the games are installed on our on our consoles. So I just feel like eventually the medium may change, where games might be shipped into physical form, like on USBs or something.
I suppose, but what's Blu-ray's capacity right now? A dual layer? It's like
45 gigs or something.
I thought it was closer to like 100 or something.
I think dual layered, I think, is like 80.
Yeah, but it has longer read times. But you're right. Every Blu-ray I've put into my PS4, it doesn't. The disc does not spin. It just installs it and then stops.
Do you know why Blu-ray works so well?
Something about I knew this. I looked this up recently. Tell me why.
Because it has a blue laser?
Well, the reason it's not so much because the laser is blue, it's because blue has a smaller wavelength, and therefore you can compress more information in a smaller amount of space.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that is science. I like science.
That's
cool.
It's like engineers are doing something.
No, engineers aren't. That's a myth. That's a lie. Engineers are not actually doing anything.
Hey, now, my roommate has an associate's in engineering. And
what's he doing right now, Trey?
Drives a wine truck.
That's what I thought.
I mean, you know, those engineers making us our expensive as hell's proprietary PS Vita memory cards. What the hell?
$100 for 32 gigs. What are they thinking?
I managed to get a 32 gigabyte Vita card for $30 because it was on sale at Lost Ark.
I'd get a PlayStation TV for $30. I'm actually considering that too to play Persona 4. And now, what is it? All Night Dancing came out.
Persona, yeah.
Yep.
Dancing all night.
God,
that
Persona
is the most ridiculous concept to spin off from an RPG series I've ever seen.
Apparently, the main story of the game, you don't actually need to do any of the rhythm minigame stuff. It's all like the game is actually more of a visual novel, which is the exact same thing that happened with the Persona 4 fighting game.
Just stop making Persona games. Atlas, I'm talking to you.
What? No,
I am waiting for Persona 5.
Yeah.
No, I just want another official Megaten series game. I want to get out of the high school. I want to get out of the realism. I want to just go to full Demon World mode.
They already released that Persona, like a new
on 3DS, right?
They released a new Shin Megami regular series game and also Devil Survivor and Devil Survivor got
2. They made a second Survivor as well.
Well, it's not that Persona is more than likely their highest grossing.
No, I understand from a business.
But it's not like they're ignoring all the other versions of Persona.
Also, I didn't even know that another one had come out on 3DS. Is it like, when did it come out? Was it recently? Am I going to have to buy a new 3DS for it?
No, it was like 2 years ago or something.
Okay, I can probably still get that on my 3DS. I'll have to check that out.
Devil Survivor 2 on Wikipedia here. Actually, that was
It's a tactics game.
That's
not the same?
No, I didn't say that, but I know that there's a new Shin Megami game.
What was the Devil Survivor game that came out on 3DS? SMT Overclocked? That can't be right. No, and that was in August 2011. Jesus Christ. That can't be right. Ugh. This is really hard to search through. I'm going to have to look at this later.
I basically just wanted it to be a similar system to, like, Nocturne. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, okay, so yeah, Nocturne has been the one that never got a sequel.
Yeah.
I heard that the Digital Devil Saga was supposed to be very similar to it, though.
Those were the two PS2 games that had Dante in them, right?
No, Nocturne has Dante in it.
Yeah, Nocturne was the only one that had Dante.
Oh, okay, got you. I guess we're still also waiting for the Shin Megami Tensei versus Fire Emblem. That's like the Wii U, I believe. But like Persona 4 has become like larger even than almost the entire Persona franchise at this point, considering how many spin-offs and animes it has now and everything attached to it. It's a crazy world if you want to get wrapped up into it. There's Trey.
There was even that Shin Megami Tensei MMO that got released around 2007.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, imagine I played it.
Guidebook.
There you go.
Physical guidebook.
Man, I can't remember the last. I'm trying to remember the last one of those that I ever bought.
It's almost necessary for those games. Well, at least it was when I didn't have internet.
Before GameFAQs just must have destroyed.
Oh, Prima Games hates GameFAQs, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I bought this.
Yeah, you buy those at Ed McKay's because of the artwork inside, right?
Oh no, it's broken. My cat, he bit the edge of it. I
Yeah.
will, I will
You
That's what
guys
you
sue
get for
can't
that
get
having
rid
a
of
cat.
cat.
cats. Yeah. Especially now that toxoplasmosis drug is like 4,000% more expensive for
That's not
however much.
true anymore. That happened over like 2 days, and it got reset, and then people hate him now. But actually, this is one of those where there's a silver lining in that it's getting people talking about how expensive drugs are for arbitrary reasons now,
Right.
and so there's that.
But hey, on the gaming side, that guy is a Dota team?
No, he
Well, no,
owns the League of Legends
League of
team,
Legends team. That's right.
Team 8, I think it was.
I don't think I've heard that it was not a very good team.
Well,
Uh,
good enough to kick our asses.
Probably, yeah, still, but it's no Cloud9 or anything like that. Um, okay, so BattleTech and Mech Warrior, they're coming back. Well, it's just essentially the BattleTech franchise, and it's getting done through Kickstarter. Trey, why don't you elucidate, Ellis something? So tell us about Mech Warrior and
Illuminate?
BattleTech. Sure, that's a word.
All right. Well, the BattleTech universe in general is amazing and quite heavily expansive. Originally starting out as a tabletop miniature game, eventually moving into a tabletop RPG game similar to Dungeons and Dragons, and then eventually going into the foray of video games. Probably one of the better known one is the Mech Warrior Mercenaries 4, which is my personal favorite in the universe. Trying to think any more on this specifically.
Like Mech Warrior 2 is also very notable for being one of those
Yes.
games that sold graphics cards, and actually
Very
like
true.
flight sticks as well.
Yeah, okay. That when it came to those ones where you're actually like individually controlling your mech, a flight stick was almost necessary to really get the fine controls that you wanted out of it. This one from this Kickstarter looks a little bit more tactics based.
Yeah, it's supposed to be turn-based strategy layer kind of game where you're controlling
I can
individual
work
units.
with that. I can work with that, especially from Harebrained Schemes. So
Yeah.
they've proven
What
merit themselves
what
plenty
kind
of
of
times.
turn-based? Like, is it going to be like Divinity turn-based, or like Civilization turn-based, or like Final Fantasy Tactics turn-based?
So looking at concept art right now, it doesn't look like it's on a grid per se. It's probably going to be closer to Divinity, where you have distances, things can move in a
Okay.
turn, and probably open tactics from that. This is just a guess, and this is just like I said, just looking at concept art. Back to the universe stuff. This is sort of a kind of dark. Well, it's not fantasy per se, but I'm looking like there are houses associated with large groups of the powers in the BattleTech universe, and that houses will pass down mechs as they go on in their generations in the inner sphere. Can you talk any more, I guess, about the story around that?
Oh man, I honestly can't really like make any kind of a real synopsis of that without being really vague. All right, so what happens is you had this thing that was called the Star League. The Star League existed, and then some stuff happened, and it broke up. And some of the people didn't like what was going on, so they went off and did their own thing. Then the rest of the people in the inner sphere stuff all like kept fighting with each other. They have their own great houses, and they're all vying for different political power to try to take back over the rest of that galaxy and reform the Star League. And then eventually the people that went off and did their own thing that became known as the clans, and they came back and they started fucking shit up. And that's about where you usually are in everything.
I noticed, like, I'm looking at the symbols for the houses. One of them's a fist. One of them's an eagle.
House Steiner.
House Steiner. Yeah, you seem pretty excited. That was one of the stretch goals.
That's I love this idea that I'll actually possibly if I do the $275 tier, I can get a flight jacket, and I'm really thinking about it real hard.
Then two of the houses just are swords. So Davion and Leo. Yeah, so House Pride
Davian. House Davian.
Yeah. So House Pride seems to be something like big for you in general.
It's actually pretty big for the BattleTech universe in general for most of the people that are heavy into it, because each of the groups are very I'm trying to think of word. Like, they have this hierarchy feudal system that links them all together, but they're all very different in how they go about their politics and what they choose to do with their different types of mech. Like House Steiner, they're mostly known for using the Atlas mechs, which is like the biggest, heaviest, most well-known badass mechs in the entire game. Mm-hmm. And next to like certain other prototypes, but those are fringe things. And so it's a big deal, and like each house has their own style of tactics, has their own like key mech that is their mech that they're known for using. And so yeah, there's a little bit of a, well, my house is better than yours.
Yeah, I don't want to tempt you anymore, but also attached to that package is the prior package, which also has a cap in your with your emblem, as well as a banner.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can get a Steiner banner to hang from your
I'm not,
walls.
I'm not going to go any higher than that, though, because the next tier up from that is the $1,000 tier, and there's no way.
But you get your own custom emblem. Be what a House Steiner fanboy you are. Yeah, better than that is if you start multiple thousands of dollars, you can get your character inserted into a novella.
Okay.
For that
Like one of those Mexican things.
Yes, I like that. Like a telenovela. It's just what is it? Oh, give me like a stereotypical telenovela name, but mechify it.
It'd be like Mujer, Casos de la Vida Real.
De Roboto. Oh God, what is robot in Spanish? Oh, I know what. Amor de computadora or something like that.
I just know Mujer
That's
is
a woman.
actually it's woman tales of real life.
Oh, okay. Well, then you just change it like mech or something. Tales of War.
Mech tales of real life.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So this game is being done by Harebrained Schemes, being led once again by Jordan Wiseman. It's notable that these guys were behind the 3 Shadowrun games that have come out, as well as the Golem Arcana tabletop slash device thing that has all the stat stuff. So they've been very successful with all their Kickstarters. And they've already hit their first funding goal, which puts in the story stuff because it was just going to be a skirmish mode to begin with. I feel like it's a really, if you are going to pitch some money to them, Trey, it's a very safe investment.
Yeah. These guys are well known for actually keeping up with their Kickstarter promises. So, and anything's got to be better than the promises that were made to me for MechWarrior Online.
That's the one that is sort of like a card, on free-to-play system, right?
Yeah, it's a free-to-play system. They got to a point where they stopped doing a lot of the promises that they made and things that they said they were going to give to backers and whatnot, and it ended up them focusing on BS cosmetic stuff to sell in their little market store, and so I lost interest in that entirely and left.
One other thing that I will say that is notable about Harebrained Schemes is that they are very heavily invested in doing narrative in their games. Shadowrun is a very prime example of that, and some of the writing in those games are just fantastic, and the stories they tell are pretty good too. So, if you care about the conflicts of the stories that go on within that universe, I think you haven't seen the game yet, but I think you will be pretty well taken care of in that space. So yeah, let me know if you throw some money in there, because I'm always curious to see how people's Kickstarter projects turn out.
I'm almost certain I will be getting it.
Granted, the estimated delivery date for this right now is May of 2017, so it's gonna be a while. But I'm pretty sure you get your jacket pretty quick if you do pick that up. Yeah. Were there any other Kickstarters people looked at, I guess, recently? But
I mean, I don't really follow Kickstarter like that.
Yeah, I don't really look into it until I hear something.
Normally, all the projects I would have funded are already done.
Yeah, Divinity 2 just closed down theirs. I think they hit about $2 million with their stuff. So that's gonna be a while. I'm still waiting for the enhanced edition for that to come out. So
you know what? I'm gonna back it right now.
Oh, okay.
While we're doing this live backing.
Okay. Well, this is an expensive podcast. Let's keep going then while he puts in his credit card information in the background. Miguel, PlayStation Plus, the games for October have been announced. Why don't you go down the list?
I mean, I don't know what to say. First of all, if anyone uses PlayStation Plus, please redeem your games from the website, so you actually get all of your PS4, PS3, and Vita games. Because some of those, if you only have a PS4, one of these games is cross-buy for PS4, but that you wouldn't see listed in the store.
Yeah, I've got a year's worth of PlayStation 3 games in backlog if I ever pick up one of those consoles for $9 or whatever.
I lent you mine.
Yeah, but I didn't put my account info in there just because it's so cumbersome to use that user interface.
Okay, so you have Broken Age. Which really surprised me.
It was one of the games that Kickstarter made famous. We were just talking about
what, Tim Schafer?
Yeah, this is the Double Fine adventure game, as it was known before.
Is this just the first chapter, or
no? It's the whole thing. The game now is sold. When the game was sold initially, you got the first chapter, and then they had to spent a year to make the second chapter, but it's sold as it was. Second chapter was put in as a patch. Everybody who bought the first thing got the second chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's cool. Well,
Yeah.
so Broken Age, which has actually, I think, come to really very good and high reviews for the most part.
Yeah, I never actually put a review out for it. I played through it. It's a really good game, really good voice acting. If you like sort of the Double Fine adventure style games like Day of the Tentacle or Monkey Island, this is very much up that alley. And it has some nifty emotional stuff going on there as well. What is even more interesting, though, is that the entire development process of this game was documented through Two Player Production, I think is the name of the group. You can watch that all on YouTube, and it's just fascinating to see how money came in through Kickstarter, how they planned their project around that, and how they had to expand the scope of their project based on the money that they got coming in. So I think that documentary, and it's free for everybody to watch now, is totally worth. If you turn on like an episode a night, I think you're going to get some really interesting insights into game development.
That's cool.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right, the next game that's also coming out for it is Super Meat Boy, which is apparently very, very fun, good, and also very good for those people who like to be masochistic about how hard their games are.
It's a awesome platformer. It's about all I got to say, really. Like, it is a great little project that was from Ed McMillan, and I can't remember the other guy that he worked with for this. But if you watch Indie Game the movie, you can see the documentation about that and how indie games are made. So, it's a great platformer. If you like Mario and stuff, it's very, very kinesthetically pleasing.
From the videos that I've seen for Super Meat Boy, it looks like Asshole Mario the game.
I mean, yeah, like you have to get the platforming right and all that, and there's like lots of saw blades that want to chop you up, but at the same time you have an incredible amount of control over the precision of your jumps and your wall jumps, so like it's fair. And the game is really good about restarting extremely quickly so that you can try again and again and again. But yeah, it can be tough in some areas.
All right, the next one is those two are both for PS4 and Vita.
Mm-hmm.
The next one's Unmechanical Extended.
This is by Grip Games. This came out initially earlier this year in February, and I don't know anything about the studio at all. It looks like a side-scroller adventure type game.
Yeah, it looks like an adventure puzzle type game.
Yeah, it looks like Machinarium almost, but yeah, I don't know anything about this at all.
Machinarium was also free on PlayStation Plus a while ago.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, this also came out on Xbox One as well. But yeah, I'll mess around with this when it hits.
All right. Well, there's also Kickbeat.
What is Kickbeat?
So Kickbeat is a rhythm-based game masquerading around as a fighting game.
Cool.
So, yeah. So if you like rhythm-based fighters, almost rhythm-based games, and take a look at that. So it's kind of like, I would say, like DDR Lite. It's not really DDR in that you like are jumping in on it, but it's very like what was that Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm? Is what it reminded me of.
What is it? That's like a rhythm game masquerading as an RPG.
Yeah, rhythm games. I feel like rhythm games are what are today are what card games were ages ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have this weird sort of underground cult following right now, especially on the Vita. So there you go.
I mean, especially with Persona 4 Golden Dancing All Night.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then after that, there's Kung Fu Rabbit, which also looks like one of those kind of adventure platformer games.
It's a split between Vita and PS3.
And then lastly, Chariot, which, I mean, like, for most people, when you hear the term indie, most people think indie side-scrolling platformer,
mm-hmm.
which feels like 3 of these games are very much that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a sort of small week or a small month for me for this stuff. It all just seems very indie.
I'm really so. Well, there was an article recently. I forget on what. Maybe it was Destructoid because Destructoid just happens to have all the articles that I very much disagree with. Mm-hmm. But they were talking about how PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live are bad because they're giving all these indies away. But like my counter argument is this. most people, if you have a AAA game, most people will already have purchased that AAA game. And I feel like the real value in PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold is not that it's giving you these games that you may already own, but it's giving you the opportunity to try these games you otherwise would have never tried.
I
Like for
mean,
me, Broken Age is on here. I would have never played Broken Age, but I am really excited to see it on here because it's always been on my radar, but I never really picked it up.
yeah, and, like I like the exposure for small indies and stuff, but there have been times where they have offered. It's the opposite for me. I play more smaller indie games with a lot of regularity, and there is only a handful of AAA games that I ever go in for in a given year. This
Are you
past few months,
sure?
well, let's see. This past month has been Metal Gear Solid 5 and Destiny. Those have been the big things for me.
Yeah, but for the past year, I mean, you got Destiny, you got Destiny twice with the Taken King,
Well, okay, so if you
but
would
that was
say
last year. Okay, Bloodborne,
Bloodborne, right? Those are the only games I really own on my PS4.
but I mean, and AAA games in
Let's see,
general.
Witcher 3 was another one. I know I like I said, in terms of indies and stuff that populate my library, I have a lot more of those, especially because I participate a lot with Humble Bundle stuff that goes on.
And I feel like that should be the case. I feel like since Humble Bundle games, since indie games are lower budget and generally speaking a lot easier to make because they have fewer assets and fewer graphical just impressiveness to them. I would suppose it's more about aesthetics rather than graphics.
Hmm.
I feel like it's logical to have a higher ratio of indie games to AAA games, since especially AAA games take a while to make as well.
Hmm. No, I mean indies do as well, just because they have small teams. For you, I feel like that this is the PlayStation Plus ends up being a better value than it does for me. Just like I have played through Super Meat Boy, played that back on the 360, and I bought Broken Age when it came out, so
So what would you have wanted? What would you like to see on a PlayStation Plus that you don't already own or have played?
Killzone. That was a launch title. I'm curious about playing it, and I assume at some point that that's going to come out. Galaxy came out, if it was going to be put on PlayStation Plus, it wasn't going to be the month that it was released, which was last month. It would probably be a few months down the line. Those are two
Transistor
examples.
took 6 months, I think, or 7 months to come out. PlayStation Plus.
Like it's the other weird knock-on effect for me purchasing anything that launches on the PlayStation Store is just that there's a pretty good possibility that if it was a highly promoted game and it's not on PlayStation Plus when it releases for free, it will be on Plus later for free. But anyways, I digress. The stuff that's on the list at the top for anyways that I know about, there's some fantastic games if you haven't played them, and I absolutely download them if you have the subscription for it. Okay, and it wouldn't be a podcast if we couldn't find some Final Fantasy news to throw in there. So,
Well, of course not. I always had to talk to me about some Final Fantasy stuff.
okay.
So basically, news that just broke out today.
Mhm.
It just broke today that Square Enix has scrapped the action battle system that we saw in the demo for Final Fantasy 15,
Hmm.
which I think is very. I think it's kind of radical because the game apparently the game is supposed to launch really soon.
That's what I keep saying.
So what apparently is happening is in the first game, the action battle system was that you went into a menu and you assigned different weapons to different maneuvers. So like your kill move would be a certain weapon, your jumping move would be a certain weapon, your
Right.
flurry would be a certain weapon, your opener would be a certain, like so on and so forth. And apparently they just thought that that was way too clunky. So now you have a more Bayonetta Devil May Cry feel to
You
it,
just
where
switch weapons around. Right?
exactly. And I'm just like, good, because that was very clunky beforehand.
So Miguel, the question now becomes: do we need to patch the demo again?
Oh well, apparently this was the demo served as a beta test,
Okay.
and I'm just like, sure, if people can put out a free alpha for their game,
Hmm.
because what game is coming out soon that Tower Defenders 2 is
Okay.
going to have on PS4 it's a free to play game, but it's going to have a paid alpha access or paid beta access to get into the game that range from $15 to $75.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, no, that's stupid. That sounds like the stupidest thing ever.
I'm
But
sure there'll
Square
be benefits
Enix,
that promotional benefits that will tie into when the game's actually released, like some kind of exclusive emblem or things like of that nature.
or getting your free-to-play like bonuses with it, like extra
Right.
experience and stuff like that.
I mean, this is nothing new. Like Street Fighter is doing almost the exact same
I
thing
mean,
right now with their pre-order.
yeah, but
When the servers work, you can play the beta for that.
yeah, but like Final Fantasy was like I feel like most companies are doing that less as a let's get some feedback on the game and more as a marketing
promotional
ploy.
item, right?
Exactly. But like Square Enix, they actually had surveys, had people come back and tell them what they thought about the game. Like one of the things was frame rate. They hated the frame rate, which was I mean an obvious one, so they fixed that. Another thing was that he was running too slow, or the camera was right up on his ass, so you always saw his butt whenever you were running. And then when they patched the demo, which then was kind of an unheard of thing. Why would someone patch a demo?
Have you played the patch demo?
Yeah, it fixes so many of these problems. The frame rate is steady, the camera is better, the action system is less clunky. Dodging is not something you have to buffer anymore.
That's
And
good.
these were all things that they got feedback on, and apparently this same feedback is what is affecting the scrapping of the action system.
This seems so unheard of for a Japanese company, and I'm glad that this is happening right now.
I should write an article on that because I've been saying that like Square Enix, when Final Fantasy XIV busted and they roped in Yoshi P, the new producer and director for that game, what he did was he always had a monthly letter and was speaking to the audience.
And
And
I assume you like the all this. I mean, who wouldn't like all this feedback?
well, I mean, like a lot of people like concept art, right, for whatever game that they play. So this guy, he will like tease you. He will play. He will like. Sometimes he'll jump on the servers and play with you. And whenever he's doing the live letters, he'll give you like little trickles of information. And sometimes he himself will get in trouble by his marketing team by what he tells people, or so they say. And then he will also like have a little stack of paper. He will show you like concept art in like that has just been drawn like the day before. And so it feels so much more of like a sincere and intimate interaction between the developer and the user base.
Like Yoshi P to me sounds like one of your favorite developers, like in the design space right now of gaming.
Yeah, like it's like I said, it's just his sincerity that really resonates with the Final Fantasy XIV install base.
And you think that this has had a knock-on effect into who's the Kingdom Hearts Tetsuya Nomura, like because he's the main head honcho right now behind Final Fantasy 15.
And they're doing the Square Enix show, like I forget what it's called, but they're doing like every 3 months or so they'll talk about what they're working on. And this is also Nintendo Direct is doing the same thing in Treehouse. That this interaction is basically unheard of in a Japanese setting, but now it's becoming so much more common and typical. It's not uncommon in the West over here, where we even have like Warframe every Thursday and Friday. They talk about their game and stuff.
Yeah, I say West, but that's Canada, so it's Canada. But yes, you're correct.
West is everything
West,
from US to the left.
Like no, that's like Northwest. But this is good because I feel like that for me, when I played that demo, it always felt like the HHHD version of Kingdom Hearts with those menus in the like bottom left and right. And I think that it's good that this brings it more into its own identity and away from that franchise.
That really, I wouldn't be surprised if this move is being influenced by their recently released game Dragon Quest Warriors, where they saw how that action system kind of felt and worked, and how they managed to get all those functions to work, and then they translated some of that experience into.
You mean that Omega Force game that's essentially Dynasty Warriors for Dragon Warrior?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, with the way that this sounds right now, it's going to be closer to a spectacle fighter like Kamiya's and Capcom Group has worked on. And it's kind of interesting to think about a main numbered Final Fantasy series as far away from turn-based fighting as you can get. Like this is, and if they can stretch it over the typical narrative that Final Fantasy games are, that's usually 20, 30 plus hours at the very least, and putting in RPG systems, I guess, behind it, which, I mean, RPG systems are in every kind of game now. Like if you can put them in first-person shooters, you can put them in anything.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, but saying RPG systems in an RPG is kind of redundant.
I mean, it wouldn't be Final Fantasy though without them, right? You would.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. But anyway, like, I'm like the more I was kind of jaded with this whole versus 13 to 15 stuff that was happening. Apparently, they scrapped the heroine from the original 13 concept and replaced her with Stella.
Hmm.
And now I was like, whatever, I'm done with this game. But the more that they are interacting with the people who are waiting, it just seems. I just did not want it to be Kingdom Hearts, the Final Fantasy game.
Trey, counterpoint: can Final Fantasy be saved?
Be saved.
I don't think it's really having that many problems, honestly, other than 13.
Damn
But
it. I was supposed to load this question, and you refused to fire the gun. All right.
but,
How can we turn this Chekhov podcast into anything if you won't?
But like when it comes right down to it, I like the idea that they're going to go back to a more turn-based style system. I'd prefer that.
Oh, it's
Wait.
not turn-based.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. My
it's
mistake.
it's as far away from that as you can be, actually. Like, it's going to play like Devil May Cry.
I would say it would play more like Dragon's Dogma.
Okay. Yeah, well,
Without
I mean,
the
now you're
tiny
speaking
bit.
my language.
Because
Dragon's
it's
Dogma
more,
even plays a lot like Devil May Cry.
it's an action-y, kind of more methodical and slow-paced action game rather than your hack and slash Dynasty Warriors or Devil May Cry game.
Yeah, but like a sort of that was in and of itself was like a next-gen Monster Hunter, and that I did kind of get the feeling when you fought some of those larger monsters that there was that kind of feel.
Yeah, and I just can't wait to see what the other summons look like, because Ramu looked incredible.
Yep, I would like that game to come out. I will leave it at that.
That, as well as Mighty Number 9.
Sure, games coming out is a thing that I would like to happen. I'm Fallout 4 is my rock right now in terms of games that will come out.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I don't know. October's going to be kind of a lull for me. Because somebody didn't post up all the the games that are coming out this week. I totally missed Tony Hawk, but I also am not paying $60 for that garbage.
Mega Man Legends came out this week.
Oh yeah, for the
For PlayStation Network.
Yeah. Did you see that somebody also found a way to hack the PlayStation TV to change the whitelist so you could play games that weren't on that whitelist?
There's always been stuff like that.
I think that's really interesting.
The demo that they showed was so you could play Wipeout.
Yeah, I also saw Golden Abyss, which was pretty heavy with touchscreen control. So, yeah, that's a thing. I think we're out of regular news stuff, so I think it's time for
what?
For our regular segment. I like to call Steam RNG. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you say a little musical effect right now, but don't worry, I get to put them in post. So, for people that have not seen the stream before or listened to the podcast, Steam RNG is a regular segment where we get our hosts and our guests to go through their vast video game libraries, mainly stuff on Steam and PC, get something picked up by a totally real, authentic, not faked 100% random number generator. We'll pick a game, they will get to talk about it, tell us some details, why they probably haven't beaten that game for whatever reason, and then the extra challenge is to see if they can stream about an hour of that game on their video service of choice. Trey right now is currently in the lead with 0% of his games being streamed, so he's better than all of us.
Hey, if you aim low, you're never disappointed.
There you go. Miguel and I think I want to say we're tied with each a game that we're missing right now under our belt.
Yeah,
I was messing around with Alpha Centauri today, and it looks like it's going to be weird to integrate with XSplit, but I'm going to try. And you have...
Did I get Shogun? Total War?
No, Shogun, Skulls... You got Skulls of the Shogun.
Skulls of the Shogun, yeah, sorry, I forgot all about that. I almost played the wrong game.
There you go. But anyways, let's go ahead, and I suppose we're going to start with Trey, assuming I can find his Steam library, which I have now... See, I want to filter your games by name, not by playtime. Okay, Trey, I've thrown some coins into the machine, and we are now rolling. Whenever you say stop, we will get a game picked out for you to talk about.
All right, stop.
Gary's Mod.
All right. I keep getting these weird ones. So Gary's Mod is obviously a massive mod for the Source Engine on Steam. And basically just uses its physics assets and also assets from a bunch of different games to let you build things and do stuff. People make mods within the mod to where you can have different things. Like there's this one called Dark RP, which basically lets you like be in this town where people are like trying to build businesses to sell drugs and guns or steal from each other. There's other things like Troubling Terrorist Town, simple game that people play where like two people are traders and no one knows who they are and you're all just trying to figure out who it is before they kill everyone. And so it's basically just a big thing that lets people make neat stuff in it.
It's described as a physics sandbox. This came out originally December 24th, 2004 on PC and then eventually onto Mac as well as Linux. This was developed by Facepunch Studios and is now officially published by the Valve Corporation. And yes, it is pretty much a showcase for the Source engine itself, being able to use all its nifty doodads and do a lot of really weird stuff if you feel like it. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I think you've summed it up pretty well. In terms of
to it.
in terms of hours, I see you have about 3 or 4 hours on Gary's Mod. Have you beaten Gary's Mod though?
Oh, I mean,
Or has it? Or I guess the better question: has Gary's Mod beaten you?
At
one
one
does
point,
that simply.
at one point, I did like put so many bombs down in the little sandbox thing and blew them all up at once, and it did crash my computer. So yeah, I think I have beaten it. Or it's beaten my computer, whichever way you want to look at it.
Do you remember when you? I mean, because Gary's Mod is not free; you have to pay for it, but it's often on sale.
Yeah.
How did you end up acquiring said mod?
I ended up getting it a little while back, so I could actually play things like Trouble in Terrorist Town and Prop Hunt. So probably about a year and a half ago, give or take. I don't mess with it very much, though, honestly.
Yeah, I got you. I would say you should stream some of it, but I don't know where you'd even start with that. Like, would you find a game type and you risk whoever you get in it, or do you just mess around with stuff and build cars or whatever?
I mean, if I would do it where it was messing around, I would have to pull you guys in there with me, because having people talk about what you're doing in there would make it more bearable to watch. Otherwise, I could like go into something like Dark RP and start up a little business on there and see what kind of interactions develop.
If you decide to stream Gary's Mod, let's see, I don't know if I can play it because I don't own a copy of it, but I'm sure I may be able to access it, I guess, probably through DJ's library without too much difficulty. If you do decide to stream it, it would be interesting to do it from my perspective, because I've never actually I've seen plenty of stuff made in Gary's Mod. I've never actually launched an executable of it.
It's not difficult, but it is a bit odd. You've got to learn the tools and figure out how to make things work. Like, I can't make most of the stuff that I see people make on there. There's no way. It would take me sitting down and studying how to do it.
So maybe that might be a little bit of a project in the future. So let's go over to Miguel then real quick. So Miguel, I've got your custom game list here in front of me. When's the last time you edited this, actually?
What did what now? Whenever I get games, I did it for the last PlayStation Plus stuff.
Okay, cool.
Everything's on there.
Throwing in some coins. We're rolling. Whenever you say stop, we will stop.
Stop telling me what to do.
Did that count?
Yeah.
Okay. Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
See, it's these games I don't know.
We were actually just talking about
that one.
Yeah, I know that one as well. This is the same people that did Super Meat Boy.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah, if you want to talk about it, what do you know about it?
I know that it's about some baby who got sent to the basement by his crazy evangelical mother and basically to die. That's all I know.
Yeah. It's very loosely based on the actual story of Isaac and Abraham from the Old Testament of the Bible, in where Abraham is told by God to sacrifice his son Isaac, and then stopped at like the very last second from doing it because he proved his faith. It's interesting because the majority of it takes place in a non-realistic setting, like in the deranged, psychotic mind of this child that's just lived a horribly abusive life for however long he's been alive. And you get all these crazy little power-ups that you can pick up that change how your character looks and change how their primary projectile can fire, because your primary weapon is your tears. So
tragic.
Yeah.
See, the original game came out in September 28, 2011. Then Rebirth. There was the one expansion, Wrath of the Lamb. The release date for this updated version, which is not running in Flash, which Flash used to crash all the time around the original Isaac, was November 4th of 2014. It came to modern consoles. I believe the 3DS version also came out recently.
Only for new 3DS.
New 3DS, okay, got you. And even then, like, they've had to do a bunch of bug fixes attached to that. But it also added in a bunch of new content and new bosses and stuff of that. I mean, it falls right into the roguelike category very snugly. But you have to sort of be on board with Ed McMillan's, style of not only the style of drawing, but scatological humor that's throughout it as well.
There's a lot of poop.
Yes.
A lot of poop.
But you can find it once you do play it. It's a very deep game. Like there's a lot of layers to it, and the way that items interact is pretty crazy. One of my favorite.
Considered a roguelite, I think.
No, I mean like this thing gets randomly generated as hard as it can. Like this is absolutely roguelike. This is one of the games I think of the most when I think of the roguelike genre. One of my favorite things that popped up around Binding of Isaac is this thing called the Binding of Isaac live stream league. I can't remember what it is, but it's acronymed as Boiler. And a game that was not meant to be competitive at all. There was no versus mode in the game to speak of. Managed to get a speedrunning community around it where there was an actual league, like put together like a football league essentially, and you would have. This is all streamed over Twitch. You would have 2 runs of Binding of Isaac going on side by side, being played over the internet, and whoever could get to the end boss the quickest would win the game for that week and would go on through the tournament. And then the game is inherently random in nature, but once you got over like that initial hump, it was all about how well could you adapt to the situation presented to you, and could you come back from having to reset and start all the way over again at level 1?
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this where like the Flash version of it would crash, and that was just part of the league. They had to just deal with it, start over, and hope they could catch up.
It was a gameplay function they determined. Like there were some banned items and such, but
did they just have to get to the boss room, or did they have to beat the boss?
They have to beat the boss.
Like they had to beat the mom boss.
Yes, which is the first canon boss that you run into that will finish the game. Yeah. The only other thing worth noting, I guess, I like the music better from the original version than the stuff done by. The composer for the new version, a Rebirth, is Radilicon, I think is the name here. Just Matthias Bossi and John Evans, which is fine. Like the music is good, but it's definitely not Danny Baranowski's score that was in the original. But that's just me.
Why would they change that up?
Probably because Danny, in my mind, especially from where he was 10 years ago, is, I'm guessing, a higher profile buy-in. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Like, he's become much more of a well-known composer since 2011. Granted, the last score I heard from him was for the Crypt of the Necrodancer, which was a small sort of indie game, but had really good music.
Yeah, maybe he was just busy.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. So I'm guessing you haven't beaten it, Miguel, because you haven't played it.
I've barely not played. Yeah, and yet again, this is getting me to play games that I haven't played that are in my library.
I think it's going to be interesting for you because this game is a little bit impenetrable. It's not impenetrable to say, but like item interactions are going to very much confuse you until you learn them. If there's any way I can be like on stream with you when you're doing this, and I can help explain some aspects, I think that'd be handy.
It also does have like a really in-depth wiki, so you can go check that out.
Yeah, just don't backdoor play. Like
no, it plays like a twin-stick shooter, and it's going to be totally behind you. I'm just going to say mechanics you should worry about, like the hidden room and how you should utilize your bombs, etc., etc.
Etc.
But yeah, it's a cool game. I like it a lot. I suppose it should be my go. Usually I tell Trey to tell me stop, but this time we're going to tell Miguel. Throw in some coins. We're rolling. Whenever you say stop, I will stop it.
What does it even mean? Oh, what? Now that I have you hostage. So apparently there's this article that came out about some game that has a permadeath feature that is, if you died while you're playing the game, you lose your access to the game. Completely.
I'm going to stop because I'm going to have to stop the coin machine right now. That's something I have to. Oh wait, actual stop?
Yeah.
Oh god. It's all the way at the top of the list. Okay, I'll say it in just a second. Are you talking about is it the one that's around the BDSM game?
It's called Upsilon Circuit.
Nope, it's not that BDSM game.
What? Kevin, what?
Hold on. What's the name of it's the guy who did the shower simulator just recently. Tell me about Epsilon real quick before I get
apparently it's what it is. It's a game where 2 teams of 4 are in this arena that have PvE elements where like there's monsters and traps and stuff. But if your character dies, then you lose complete access to play that game ever again.
Like, do you have to go to another server?
No,
Or is,
you cannot play this game again.
there's no way in hell I would pay for that.
I guess you have to. Yeah, I guess you have to buy a second copy of it. Apparently, the developers are calling it permadeath.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, does it cost 99 cents? Because if not, that's never going to work out.
I mean, if you know what you're buying into, like, that's the thing.
That's just throwing money away.
What I was thinking of is a game done by a developer named Robert Yang, who is known for doing some pretty controversial games right now. He's currently has 2 of his games banned from Twitch streaming. His most recent game is called Rinse and Repeat, which is a shower simulator.
Big man.
Yep. That got banned from Twitch. His other stuff...
Is this the guy that did, like, Succulent?
I think Succulent is that the one where if you don't play according to the BDSM rules, you get locked out from the game?
No, that's another one by the same guy. Succulent is the one... Oh, wait,
yeah,
is it Succulent?
Yeah, it's about watching that dude. He's like eating a hot dog. I'm pretty sure.
Popsicle. It's a popsicle.
That's it.
And the more you do it, like the guys in the background get more and more and more and more intense and interested in what's going on.
Yeah. No, the game I'm thinking of is Hurt Me Plenty. That's the one that is about consent and BDSM rules.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have heard of that one.
The other game
is that like BDSM simulator?
Pretty much, yeah. Like you'll be asked to punish a person, and if you don't, stop when they say stop, you get locked out of the game. Has your ISP essentially, and it'll lock you out of playing the game for about a week just because the game doesn't trust you anymore. Other games he's done is Stick Shift, which is about talking about sexual fixation with automotive cars, like autoerotica, and then Cobra Club, which is about framing a good dick pic. He's made some really like challenging like games that are in terms of like challenging these kind of subjects, and I wish I could talk more about them with some more authority. I've heard a lot about them, and I would like to talk about them some more.
If you listen to the Podquisition with Jim Sterling, he's got Laura Kay on there, and she plays these games a bunch.
That's one of the places I've heard it from. Total Biscuit has done some interviews, I think, with her as well, talking about those. But anyways, back to Steam RNG.
What did you roll?
Well, you tricked me and stopped. Well, you didn't trick me, but Ace Combat Assault Horizon Enhanced Edition. That's the first A game on my list at the top. So.
How else were you supposed to get it if I
seriously.
went through all of it?
Anyways, Ace Combat is a very storied franchise by Namco, I believe. I want to say now Namco Bandai Namco. Bamco Nandai? I don't know what the name of the company.
Namco Bandai.
Namco Bandai. It's the fighter jet simulator that has fantastic music and usually really like drawn out alternate world stories. Lots of drama with characters that you never see. You always just hear it over the radio. It's always whatever flimsy justification they can have you do for being in the cockpit of an F-17 or whatever.
What even is a MacGuffin?
Exactly. But that being said, they render some really cool planes. The dogfighting is usually pretty fun, and like I said, the score is just to die for. Like the Unsung War, you go look that up. That is some choral dramatic stuff right there. I want to say Assault Horizon was a departure from the regular canon of, or just what was Ace Combat games. Prior to that, because it takes place in the real world, and I want to say it was also very heavily marketed towards the West, which other games had been before, but not to this extent. It's very much a sort of I played the early parts of it. It's very Chesby Hoorah America in the Middle East kind of thing going on. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know how many hours. I can't have more than 2 or 3 hours of this game. 61 minutes, so even less than that. Have not beaten it. I got this on a Humble Bundle. But I'll be happy to play some of this on a stream at some point. Okay.
I'll be able to knock out both of my Steam RNG games this next week because I don't have 3 exams to study for.
Yay! Like I said, I had some time before the stream, and I just knocked out one of mine. And I'm still going to try to figure out Alpha Centauri, but I'll probably get to this before that.
Like I said, I might do one of mine tonight. If nothing else, I will catch up during fall break. So.
Okay. If you need some help getting set up, let me know. But
Will do.
people that are watching the stream right now, if you want to, I guess, hang around when Trey does get it started up, it will be on the same Pixel Loadout channel.
Might do it tonight.
Okay.
Don't want to promise people.
Hey, you hear that, guys? Everybody in chat, he's promising you. So you need to make sure you hold to his word. Otherwise, what good are the words that come out of his mouth? But that, I believe, is everything for the segment there. Good job, guys. Good job messing around with the slot machines again. Does anybody have any other extra news or little tidbits they want to throw in real quick?
No,
Well,
I threw mine in the middle of your roll, so.
That's true.
Are
We
video games art?
yeah. Yes, definitively, 100%.
Total Biscuit had a thing up, posted a video up to like yesterday or today, talking about it. Just a little bit.
Did he say no?
Huh? It was very much one of those. It can be. It might not be. It depends on what it is. Whether it's a game made for sheerly for entertainment value, or if it has something that has a more storyline, in-depth thing, and more meaning. All
I
these
would
like,
agree
yes
with
and no.
that.
We should
Yes
talk
and
about
no
that.
is the answer.
We should
Like,
talk
would
about
you-
this again in the future, because we're unfortunately just like out of time.
Yes.
Do we want to talk about what we have planned for October here? It's going to be, I guess, a week before Halloween. It's we're going to try to do a live stream of Until Dawn with a large group in Miguel's dwelling over there.
Over here. So you can see it. All this, it's not that I don't have a wall back here, it's that I'm showing you the preview of the set.
Okay. October 2015. I believe
I'm
this.
broke.
I believe this is the. You're not at all.
What? I am broke.
You can shut up. I paid bills today. I'll talk about being broke. This is going to be on the 24th of Saturday, is what we got planned tentatively at the moment. We'll have more details as we get stuff set up. But hopefully we'll be having cameras set up, the lights way down low, screams will happen, and maybe we'll get a live chat running as well. That's the plan, anyways.
I think Beth Ann said that she would be willing to join us, and Colleen said that she might be able to join us if everything else is going fine. I think her boyfriend said that he would come.
That's cool. And Trey, you want to join in too, right?
Quite possibly. Honestly, not much on horror games.
It's okay.
I'll check it out.
It's not your first time coming to my house.
Oh, God. Here we go. On that note, we're going to go ahead and do the outro stuff. For more news and articles related to the podcast, please check out pixelloadout.blogspot.com. On YouTube, search Pixel Loadout or click the subscribe button below if you are watching the stream or the archive. Audio-only versions of the podcast can now be found on iTunes and Stitcher. The archives have now been restored, so you can go back to the first episode that's been posted on the stream if you want to listen to that and get more of our sexy voices. Our intro and outro music is done by Kevin McLeod. If you want to find more of his work, you can go to incompetech.com. Our producer is Mike Brothers. And then finally, if you want to get in contact with us, share your questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us at pixelloadout@gmail.com. I want to say thanks again to everybody in the chat right now for watching the live stream. I won't go ahead and just rattle off names because then it sounds more mysterious and we have like a larger amount of people watching than I say. I would love to get some emails sometime and read them on the show. I'm not like this is, I guess, a call to action to all people watching right now or go and watch the stream. But if you want to send an email, I check the account pretty regularly. So if you've got questions or topics you want us to talk about on the stream, feel free to email us. So that's going to be everything for tonight. For Pixel Loadout, I'm Kevin Harrison.
I'm Trey Fuqua.
And I'm Miguel Torres.
And we will see you next time.
Bye.